Hi, Fanny, and welcome to the Natural Birth Podcast. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. I'm good. I'm not with my babies at the moment, so I'm feeling kind of like naked because they're not on me. So it's kind of weird, but it's nice to have a moment to just
Yeah.
reflect and be by myself.
You're a mama of four, and I think we should briefly mention your first two. But we're going to focus on your twin home birth, which I'm
Yeah.
so excited because it's so rare that women have home births with twins anymore. It's just super
Yeah.
rare. So I think you're actually, I've been doing this podcast now for 4 years, so maybe I'm forgetting, but I think you're the first one
Oh,
who's had a
yeah.
twin home birth story, maybe even twins. Like, if anyone's listening to this and you had a twin, like natural birth, then contact me because I think we need more twin stories.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, before then we dive on into that though, do you want to start off by sharing like your journey from, having your first baba to your second, and then finally your third pregnancy, being twins and choosing home birth after two hospital births?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, 'cause I have four kids and my oldest is 8, my son. And so when he was born, it was like, and we were planning him. We were planning to get pregnant, and we got pregnant very easily on our first attempt, which we didn't like expected, but that happened, which was very very nice because I didn't want this whole thing to worry about like could I be pregnant or not, but obviously I could. So that was kind of relief. And so he was born in December, and my water broke like 6 days before my due date, which I didn't expect also because it was my first. And I went into the hospital, and this is, I've been thinking about this, and at that time I felt more safe at the hospital. I wanted to stay there, even though my water broke and I didn't have a lot of contractions, just some. I was kind of maybe dilated like 2 or 3 centimeters, and I really wanted to stay at the hospital. And so I did, and it took about 24 hours before he was born. And it was kind of like a classical first time birth, like the epidural, the pitocin, I think you call it, like in English.
Synthetic
Yeah,
oxytocin, yeah,
it's
yeah.
yeah. And it was like a lot of medical interventions, and I thought it was a very hard experience. It wasn't. I remember I told my friend afterwards, like, this is the worst thing I've ever been to. Like, this is like emotionally, but
Yeah.
also it was a fantastic experience because I got to meet my son, but it was very difficult, very hard to process afterwards. And I
Yeah.
had a postpartum depression, and I think it was mainly because of my experience at the hospital.
And this is
So
the thing, isn't it? Like, you know, when you think back to like, why do we have this fear of birth and this narrative that birth is the most awful thing? And,
yeah.
most women are like, oh, I just want to be saved at the hospital. I want to get my epidural. I don't want to feel anything. Just save me from this experience. It's because most women have this experience, at least the
Yeah,
first time they birth, right? Um,
exactly.
because we live in this illusion that we're going to be able to be saved by the hospital, or will be
Mhm.
safest there, and they can take care of it, and they can take care of the pain, and I don't have to feel
Yeah.
anything. But it's like
Yeah,
the
and that
trade-off is then
yeah,
the aftermath of that experience, which usually is not good, unfortunately.
exactly. And I wish I knew that because, and that's kind of what I want to everyone to know, that gives birth for the first time or the second time or the third time, that it can be like a positive, fantastic, empowering experience. It doesn't have to be that way, that like, oh, this is the worst thing I've ever can experience.
Yeah.
And of course it's painful, but it's so much more. And I get to experience that the second time and definitely the third time.
Yeah, so with your second, you
Yeah,
decided to still have a hospital birth, but you
yeah.
decided not to have the epidural. Why was that?
Because I found the epidural to it kind of limited me a lot in my birth. I felt the second I got the epidural, um, everything changed in my body. I didn't feel at home in my body anymore. I felt like I was outside of my body and looking down on myself.
Mm.
And also they started to give me this pitocin and the synthetic oxytocin, which I remember I said like, please turn it off. I don't want it. It feels so weird in my body.
Mm.
And they said like, no, we have to have it. You have to have it because the progress and everything. So
Yeah.
I just remember that just felt so hard. So not like I was in my body anymore. So
Mm.
that's why I didn't want an epidural the second time.
Yeah.
And also the second time it was a lot faster. That also started with my water breaking. That's kind of my pattern. So my water broke in the morning, and then my daughter, she came in the evening. So, and we went into the hospital around, yeah, we just stayed there for like 2 hours, and then she came. So I think that also, of course, helped me because I did most of the labor I did at home in my
Yeah.
safe place, actually in our laundry room, because my son was 3 at that point, and he was playing, and I was waiting for my mom to come and get him, and I was like, no, it's okay. You can wait. You can go to work. You can do this and this. And because I thought it was going to take a lot more time. So I went into a laundry room because I needed to be by myself. So I did most of the laboring in there. And
Like a
then she
cat.
came and we just went to the hospital and basically just gave birth there.
Yeah. You were like a cat
Yeah.
seeking out that snug, small space.
Mm, mm,
And um, usually the second time around is around half the time of the first. Not always,
mm.
definitely not always, but most of the time. I think yeah, it sounds like yours was almost
Yeah.
exactly half.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so with your third then, let's go through that one in
Yeah.
depth and detail. So tell us about becoming pregnant and finding out you had twins. How was
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. That was a once in a lifetime thing, of course. Yeah, it started off like about New Year's Eve last year, no, 2022, because then I found out I was pregnant and with one baby that actually ended in a miscarriage or a missed abortion. Like I had a little small like bleeding, and then we went in to a clinic and they found out that the heartbeat didn't, there were no heartbeats anymore.
Yeah.
So that was kind of that was my first time like having a miscarriage,
Yeah.
and it was of course very sad and difficult. But it made me even more sure that I wanted a third baby, because we had been like, do we want another baby, or do we have the energy and the finances and everything? But then I really felt like, yeah, I really want another baby, because when I lost that baby I felt like this is what I should do. So we tried like just 1 month after the miscarriage, and when I had my period back we tried, and once again I felt pregnant the first time we tried. And so then I thought like, oh, I'm gonna have my rainbow baby. When you had a loss, you say that's like a rainbow baby. So um we went for early ultrasound, because I wanted to know that like, is there heartbeat this time, and is it really a baby in there? And then that was the moment where we found out it was twins. And and the nurse who was doing the ultrasound, she was very quiet for a long time. And I was like, oh no, she can see a heartbeat. It's like, is it the same thing now? And then she just said like, do you see what I see? And I'm like, yeah, is it two? And she's like, yeah. And my husband didn't get it at all. He was like, oh, do you mean there's no heartbeat? Oh no. I was like, no, there's two heartbeats. And he was like, okay. So that was kind of a shock, of course. And actually it was kind of shocking because I mean, we have two kids. We planned for a third, and now we have four. So they was kind of funny because after the ultrasound, we went home and they called me and they were like, "Are you okay?" Because they saw in us, so we were so shocked. So they was like, "Oh, just wanted to check in on you. Are you okay with this big like thing you're having?" So, and I was okay. I mean, it was kind of surprising and of course a little worrying, and it's like, are we gonna manage to have four kids and everything? But it's now I can see life without these four children of mine.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how was the
Even
pregnancy compared to your other two? Was it different to carry two babies?
yeah, I mean the first time it was a lot more um like struggling with my body, and like I had a lot of nausea and couldn't eat and like insomnia the first time, and it was really, really, really difficult. And I mean, not so weird because there's two in there, double the hormones and everything that makes you feel a little off in the beginning. But then around like week 15 or something, it was kind of a little bit better. Um, but of course, I mean, it is tougher to carry twins. And but I had like some weeks in the middle where I kind of felt it was also in the summer, so I felt like really like it was nice. I had a little bump, and it wasn't that like heavy to carry, and it felt really good. And also, I mean, if I compare these pregnancies, my first pregnancy was kind of easy, like physical. It wasn't that heavy, and I didn't have a lot of symptoms, but I had like a lot of anxiety and worry, and mostly because I didn't know what it was to be pregnant. I didn't know what feelings could come up, and so. But this time around, it was like I knew how it was. I knew the trimester, what I could expect and everything. So that was more easy this time. But on the other hand, it was more difficult for my body because it was like, yeah, of course, I had given birth, and I had carried two babies before, and now I had another two babies in my body. So it's kind of hard. But and also in the end, I had a like I didn't have a high blood pressure, but I had a little I'm not sure what you call it in English, but problems with my galla, my liver was producing, so I had like itching, my hands
Oh,
and my
did you have
feet.
cholestasis?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was kind of difficult, but
Wow.
yeah. So, but it was very when I think about it now in hindsight, I felt like it was very nice to have them there, kicking, and it was always one of them were kicking a lot more than the other. So I
Right.
kind of knew I could like separate them. Like, okay, I know you're there, and there you are, not them. Like he didn't move as much, and they're still like that now when they're born.
Isn't that interesting? It really goes to
Yeah,
show how even in the womb, they
yeah,
are their own personalities, and it's so special,
yeah,
so precious.
right.
So you contacted me at one point, sometime
Yeah,
in the autumn, didn't you, about
yeah,
wanting to have a home birth?
yeah.
So where did the thought of home birth, how did that come about?
Um, Actually, it started like in the pregnancy before that ended in a miscarriage.
Hmm.
It started there, and I wanted like very early. I knew I wanted home birth, but unfortunately, it ended in a miscarriage. But then I got pregnant again, and I knew even more. I wanted a home birth, and I don't know really what like made me in that direction. I had like the past year, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts like yours, and a lot of Swedish podcasts about home birth and natural births and so on. And I just knew I wanted that experience. I wanted my birth to be happy and positive and something that I could look back and tell my kids that you were born in this way. It was amazing. I was. And so that was my dream and my goal actually. But then I found out I was having twins, and that's a risk pregnancy. I mean, if you listen to what the medical system thinks, it's a risk having twins. So actually, I just kind of I thought I couldn't have a home birth. I couldn't home birth twins. It was like I hadn't heard of anyone doing it, and I contacted some midwives here in Sweden, but no one wanted to do it with twins because it's kind of high risk. So that's why I contacted you, because I knew maybe you have some connections and you knew someone who might be able to assist the home birth with twins. So, but I still wasn't sure because I mean, every time I went to the hospital for like an ultrasound or just a checkup with my midwife, they kind of like, this is the risk. They just like, this and this and this, and you have this medication, you have to do this, and if one is breached, we can't deliver it vaginally. You have to do C-section, and there was just so much information about what could go wrong with
Yeah.
this birthing my twins,
Mm.
and that just made me so upset and like sad, and I don't know. I just in my mind I had my dream, like I wanted to give birth in a way,
Yeah.
and they were just kind of like making me feel like, no, that's not possible. I never mentioned I want, well, maybe I mentioned it once, I wanted a home birth, but for them it was like, no, you have to be in the hospital, or
Yeah.
otherwise your children won't survive. That was basically the message they were giving
Yeah.
me.
Oh, it's so ignorant.
Yeah.
It's so incredibly ignorant. And it's baffling to me how still the majority of society, like general population, medical, society, everyone is upholding this lie. It's not true.
No.
You're a
Oh,
beautiful example of that, right? And
yeah.
it's just like and it just goes against all logic and research and everything. And I'm just like, can they stop repeating
Yeah.
this bullshit?
Yeah,
Really?
because it's like, what I told them was like, I know what I'm capable of. I know what my body's capable of. I understand that you have your guidelines and your like things you have to regulate and everything you have to listen to, but can't you just like look into my individual, that I am an individual. I'm
Mm-mm.
like person. I'm not a like a
Statistic. Yeah.
no. So but they couldn't. So, and actually I booked a meeting at the hospital with the manager there, because I just wanted to like hear them out. Like, how can we meet? I'm here and you're here. Can we meet some way? Like, is it possible for you to? This was when I still was like in for a hospital birth.
Yeah.
And actually they kind of listened to me, but they still had their things they wanted to do. They were like, oh, we can. I was like, I don't want CTG, I don't want like monitoring, and I don't want vaginal exams. I want to be upright when I give birth. I don't want to lie in the bed. And they were like, okay, maybe. They couldn't give me like a straight answer. Like,
Oh,
you can
you're a horror patient because you obviously
yeah,
are a patient when you go into hospital. You're a horror patient to them.
yeah,
They just think that,
exactly.
oh my God, you would make them so nervous because
Yeah,
they would be so scared because all their control mechanisms would be not invited by you.
exactly.
And again, I mean, you know that all of those things are not evidence-based and they disrupt
No,
instead of help the process. So
yeah,
you were very well educated.
yeah,
Um, and apparently they are not of the physiology of a
no,
birthing woman when when they are so scared of her taking
yeah,
charge. Like just let her do her thing then. If you want her
mm,
in the hospital, provide care that is supportive and not coercive and let her birth the way she wants, then
yeah.
we wouldn't see so many women choosing something else.
Exactly. And this is so interesting because you remember in the beginning, I told I was feeling safe at the hospital with my first. And this time, there was exactly the opposite. I was, every time I went to the hospital for an ultrasound, because you have a lot of, or at least you're like, you could have a lot of ultrasounds if you want to, but I went to a few of them. Every time I just felt like, no, this is not, it doesn't feel good in my stomach. They were like, they were just talking about all these risks and everything, and I didn't feel safe. That was like the
Mm.
main reason we chose to have a home birth, because I didn't feel safe at the hospital. And that's kind of natural, you know. It's natural for a woman to feel safe at home and in a safe to give birth in a safe place. But it's just so interesting that I had that thought that I really thought that being safe is at the hospital with my first, and I had to go through that journey just to realize that that wasn't the case. And I really
Yeah.
hope more women can know that they don't have to go through that journey. They can like birth home with their
The
first
first time, yes, I wish
or
that for so
yeah.
many women. I wish that because this is how most first time mama resonate is that, you know, oh, or recent, like, oh, with my first, I'll just do the first in the hospital and then the second I can birth at home or in the birth
Mm,
center. Like,
yeah.
don't do it. The,
No.
the risk of you walking into that hospital is so much bigger than the risk being at home.
Yeah.
If we talk about the bare minimum, which is like the survival of you and your baby, it's on
Mm,
par. Like it's the same at home as it is in the hospital. But everything else increases the risk to your body, to the baby's
mm,
body, to your physical, emotional, cultural, spiritual,
yeah.
everything. Like the risk goes through the roof. As you said, you have postpartum depression. Like that is so common in our society. Like why? Yeah, well, it's because of the births that women have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also the lacking of postpartum support is also a big
Yeah.
for sure. So you contacted
Yeah.
me, and I
Yeah.
had someone living close to you that was doing twin home births.
Yeah. And I contacted her, and she hadn't done any a twin home birth before, but she had worked with I mean she's been doing home birth for like 30 years or something, but so she had delivered twins at a hospital, and she had done a lot of home births, but never with twins. So, and of course for me that was kind of like, oh, I would want someone to had like obviously been at home birth with twins, but at the same time she was very experienced. She knew what it was like to deliver babies at home or being part of that. And for her it was like, okay, there's two in there. I have a colleague with me, so she had another midwife, so there were two because there were two babies, and we had a lot of conversations. And she visited me for a few times, and we talked, and I called her sometimes, when I had like this thought like, oh, how about this? And so, and I really felt safe with her. I really felt like yeah, it felt like I wanted to do this, and I also wanted her to feel safe.
Yeah.
I asked her that, and her colleague, like, are you feeling safe with this? Because I don't want you to be like, do we want this? And they were like, yeah, we believe in you, we believe in these babies.
Mm.
So, and also I had a doula that participated in the birth, because I contacted this doula when I thought I was going to have a hospital birth, because I wanted like an extra support. And then I chose to have a home birth, and then it was just like the more the merrier. So she was part as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and then so we decided, and I think it was like 29th week or something, we decided to have a home birth. And with twins, they can come earlier. I mean, most of the time, or actually, if you now, I've heard a lot of people like birth twins at 48 week, 41 week, or 40 weeks, or 42 weeks, but generally they come a bit earlier than the due date. So we kind of expected them to come like maybe 37 or 38 or something. And my other kids also came like a few days, like 1 week earlier. So we were on call, but they showed up, I think, 16 days earlier than
Mhm.
due date.
Right.
And also my water broke.
As always.
Yeah. And it was kind of funny because the the night it broke early in the morning, but that night I woke up and had like a stomach pain, but it wasn't kind of the regular, contraction, like that laboring pain. It was like somebody was just stabbing me in my stomach. And later on, I think that was when my baby B, or like twin B, was flipping, because he was breech the whole
Ah,
time, like the last couple of weeks. Baby
Mm.
A was head down, and B was breech. So we were kind of, we knew that, okay, so when the first boy, there was two boys, when the first boy comes, he will come ahead with head down, and the other one will come breech. But I think he was turning that the night, I don't know, but I think it was just, I just felt something in there.
Yeah.
And I went up, and actually my daughter, she was awake very early. She always goes up very early, and she came into my bed, and I was sleeping alone because I had some like poor sleep the last time. So my husband was downstairs, and she came into my bed, and she was like, we were like cuddling, and then she got her iPad, and I was like, yeah, you can watch something. I'll just go lie down. And then I just went up, and they're like gushing out water, like so much water. It was so much more than the recent times. And I went into the bathroom, and it was like just gushing, so much water. I stood in the bathtub, and then I yelled at my, or I told my daughter, like, can you go get daddy, because mommy needs daddy. And he was like, no, I'm watching my iPad. And I was like, no, can you just go get him? Please, mommy needs him. And so finally she went downstairs and went and she got he came to me. And then, and this is kind of exciting also, or like a little special, because then we saw that um the water, what do you call it in English? Uh,
Amniotic fluids.
yeah, exactly. It was miscolored. It was like a little green, like
Mhm.
light green.
Mm.
And I don't know how it is in other countries, but in Sweden, they kind of tell you all the time that if the color is like green or dark green or brown, you have to go into the hospital. It's
Yeah.
danger for your baby.
Yes, because
And
then your baby has pooed, it's
yeah,
meconium,
yeah,
and you're now deemed high risk and you need to
yeah,
be continuously monitored with the CTG.
yeah. So that was like kind of like what just went on in my head. It was like, oh no, can't I stay at home now? Because we had like planned. I mean, this is what they were born in the right time. That wasn't too early. Because my midwife said that if you want to birth at home, they have to be at least 37 weeks.
Yeah,
She didn't want to, like, because if they
premature.
born,
Yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah, especially because they're twins as well.
yeah,
The twins tend to be even smaller than,
yeah,
when you have a singleton baby. So being
exactly.
premature, yeah, I
Yeah,
can understand
but
that.
everything was fine, I was fine.
Mhm.
I was healthy, the babies were healthy, we knew everything was good. So that was
Mm.
when I saw the fluid, I was like, no, 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 no. So I called my midwife, and I FaceTimed her, and I like showed her the color. And she was like, no, it's fine, I'm coming over, and we're listening to the babies. If everything's fine, you can just relax, and we're staying at home.
Beautiful.
So that was nice. And so we stayed, and this by this time was like 7 or 8 in the morning, and my other kids were going to school. So my husband dropped them off, and my midwives arrived, and we listened to the babies, and everything was fine. The heartbeat was uh, normal, nothing extraordinary or something.
Yeah.
And so, and one of my midwives, she's doing acupuncture, and she was like doing a needle here in my forehead, just for me to relax,
In
because
between
I
your
was like,
eyebrows. Yeah.
yeah, between my eyebrows, yeah. And I just remember that because I have like a photo of me with with the needle in there, and after that I could relax.
Mm.
We ate a very good breakfast, and then yeah, I remember I just went down in my, actually, this room where I'm sitting now, this is where they're born, in this room behind me. So I went here, just putting on some music, and um I was sitting on the Pilates ball, my birth ball, and just kind of feeling it, just waiting. And by like 10 or something, 10 a.m., I think, um I was kind of feeling sensations. They
Mm.
were like a lot, not like very strong, but kind of, they felt. And then I went into the shower, because I love showering. And the last time, like last weeks of my pregnancy, I've been like I took showers like 3 times a day because I just, I love the heat. I love
Yeah.
like I could relax. I just and actually I forced my husband to buy me a chair so I could have a chair in the shower so I could sit down and just like the last week because it was so nice to have the
Mm.
water just kind of giving me the relax the
The
relaxation.
relaxation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was so nice. So I went into the shower, and then after that I was kind of feeling a lot of contractions or sensations. So that's when I told my husband to fill the pool because we had birth pool. So we were starting to fill it up, and yeah, I when that was done, I went into the pool, and I think at that point I asked my husband because I had like this vision. I want him to be in the pool with me, not necessarily when they're born, but at some time I want to be in there with him, cuddling and just kind of
Mhm.
being in there. And so he went in with me, and we sat together, and he like gave me massages and just kind of had a nice time. Um, and then I think I went up to go to the bathroom, and that was like the last time I went up before they were born. Um, and I just remember that it felt so good to go back into the pool and I just know that, okay, my babies will be born here like in a few hours. I wouldn't leave the pool. I just wanted to be in there because it just felt so good. It was so much pain relief with the water and my breathing and my music in the background, like this slow like yoga ish music that was just going on repeat because it was so relaxing. So I just remember that feeling like, oh, I'm gonna give birth to my boys here like soon. I'm not gonna go anywhere. No one can make me go anywhere. No one can come and say like, oh, you have to do this, you have to be in this position. You can just, I can just like know that now I'm in charge. I can do whatever I feel is right in this
Mhm.
moment. And that was to be in the pool.
And where was the midwives at this point?
They were in the house, I mean in our house. This room is downstairs, so they were upstairs in the kitchen, and they were coming down sometimes like checking in on me, like how are you doing, and giving me like rubbing my back, and my doula was there almost all the time. It was some at some point I was like, no, I want to be alone, and but so they were there, but they necessarily wasn't like close to me like this. They knew I could do this on my own, and I would say like if I need them, they would come.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that kind of just went on for like an hour or something. And at some point I knew I wanted my older kids there because we had talked about this. I wanted them there for the birth, but this was a school day, so they were in school. And they're gone to school this morning because we didn't know how long it was going to take. But I told my husband like I want them here now, and I think I knew that was kind of close. I think that was like 1.5 hour before they were born. I knew that I wanted them. I just I wanted to, like the animals do, like I wanted to gather um my people. I wanted them
Yeah.
there.
You wanted to gather your pack. So,
Yeah,
so what
exactly.
time are we talking about now? You said around 10
um
was when,
Yeah, that was maybe 11:30, I think. I said like I want them there.
okay. Yeah. Pretty
So my
quickly
mom,
after you had the first
yeah,
sensations of the contract.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it was kind of quickly.
Mm.
So my mom was on her way because she was coming, and oh, actually she was already here. Yeah, she had been here for like half an hour. And then I told her like, can you go get the kids, the older kids? And she did. And she
Oh,
was like, no, shouldn't I wait? And I was like, yeah, you can wait so they can eat lunch in school. And then my midwife was like, no, I think you should go now.
yeah.
We don't know how quick this is gonna go.
Yeah.
So she went, and they came home, and they came into the room where I was in the pool, and they were like, oh my God, because the pool had been here for a couple of weeks, like blown up, but no water in it. So they talked about this pool all the time. They were like, "Can we swim in the pool? Like, when can we go in the pool?"
Yeah.
So they thought it was very funny to see me in there. And they just stayed in the room with me because we have like a sofa, like deeper in the room, and that's where they just sat on the sofa with my mom, and I had prepared like a bag with snacks, because mainly for me, but I knew at the same time I wasn't going to eat it because I never eat when I'm in labor, I just wanted to drink water. So I just gave him the bag and like, here, you can have some snacks. And they were just sitting like eating chocolate and raisins and everything, and just we're having like the time of their lives. And
They
like
got to
looking at,
be out of school and they got to witness their
yeah, exactly.
siblings being born.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So they
everyone
were
was
like,
gathered, so they would be happy too. Like they had their grandma and everyone was
yeah, yeah, yeah,
there. And
yeah.
what
They
a
thought like, oh my God, this is the best day ever.
feeling. And so your oldest boy was 8. And how young
Yeah.
was your second child?
She's 5.
She's 5, yeah.
We're actually 4 at this time, but she was
Yeah.
turning 5 a couple of months later.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so they were like, and they came up to me like sometimes, and how are you, and like pat me on my head, and my daughter was like waving with this sun feather, because I was so warm.
Mm.
And they were like making funny noises because they thought I was making funny noises, and they were like, "Oh wow, why are you doing this?" Like, you know. So, but it just felt so good because there was no fear at all in that room at that point. You know,
Yeah.
I I just felt so happy that I could, both for me, but for my kids, my older kids, for them to see that this is what a birth could look like. It doesn't have to be painful and scary and a lot of fear and everything. And they gave me a lot of energy to keep going when it was tough, when it was difficult.
Yeah.
I just watched them, and I felt them. They were like, I held their hands and my husband's hands, and I just felt like I can do this. But then when I got like in transition, I think with the first, it was just a couple of minutes before he was born, I just felt like, no, we have to clear the room. At
Mm.
that point, I just wanted to be with my husband and the midwives, because I felt like, oh, I have to be in, like, yeah, I just wanted to be alone. So my mom took the kids and went out. She went upstairs. And yeah, it was just a couple of contractions, and his head, it was funny because we knew that one of them had a larger head, and it was number baby A, the twin A. And I, yeah, just felt his head very. And the thing is, I've never done that before. I've given birth to twice before, and I never felt by myself. I didn't have the, I don't know. I just didn't feel right. But now I wanted to feel his head, of course. So I held my hand on the head all the time when he was like going back and forth. And yeah, and then the head came out in one contraction, and then it was one more, and he came out in the water. And yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. He was so quiet when he came out, so we were like, that was the only time during the birth that I was a little worried, like, oh, isn't he supposed to like scream right away, what you've seen in movies and in my previous births. But he was just quiet, but he had his eyes wide open, and he
Yeah.
was looking at me, and I held him like this, and we were just looking at each other. And it was like he was smiling, like, hi, I'm here now. You can relax now. And I just I pulled him up to my chest and just kind of, well, I had just amazing time with him, a couple of minutes.
That's the thing with water babies. Like
Yeah,
when you're bathing water, a lot of babies are like that. They're quiet, alert, and babies don't have to cry when
no,
they're born. They really don't.
no,
They can open their lungs anyways.
yeah,
And that's like an old myth that they have to cry to open their
yeah,
lungs. Like And in the beginning too, he's getting the placenta is perfusing through the umbilical cord as well. So he's
Yeah,
getting all the beautiful blood flow through his umbilical
yeah,
cord as well. Did
yeah,
you catch your baby? What
yeah.
position were you in?
I was kind of when he came out, I was like leaning backwards, so I was kind of sitting upright, but a little like this, I think, because I had to like move around a lot in the pool. Just minutes before, I was like on my four, like and I
All
was like, okay,
fours.
yeah, four. So I was just kind of moving around. But then the minute, or like the moment when he got out, I was like, yeah, I was kind of sitting upright or like with my bum a little up. So I was catching him, and no one was there with their hands. It was like they were just giving me the space to do what I wanted. And I catch him and I pulled him up to my chest, and he was just, no, actually, I didn't. I think I held him like this first because he was looking so much at me. So I didn't want him to be at my chest straight away because I was like, of course you want to look at your mother. Who are you? You know? So he was looking at me, and we just had a very, very nice moment. It was so beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, and then a little, maybe 7 8 minutes later, I was feeling like sensations again, and the contractions started, and I was like, okay, here comes another one. And actually at this time, when he was born, my I called my kids to come back, to come down to me. So they come in, the older kids, they coming in, and they were like, oh, he's here. Oh, and they were looking at him and everything, and kind of just, yeah, hugging me. And then my daughter says, she says like, oh, so now it's just one more. There's just one left in there. So it's like, yeah, it is. And I've expected it to be a lot, I mean, a little bit easier than the first one, because, and he kind of got out quite fast, but um when he had already like done the way for his brother, because I didn't have to do like the whole opening the pelvic again because I was already done. So when I had the contractions, I knew that okay, he's coming now. It was very, very quickly. So I still held my BBA, like my first one. I held him on my chest, and I just kind of like went a little bit back with my back, and he just came out. Second
It
one.
just slid on one out
Yeah, he
in one
just slid out.
contraction.
Yeah. And actually my midwife helped me to catch him because I couldn't catch him when I held the first one. So she caught him and put him on my chest, and yeah, that was it. And I felt like, oh my God, I just did this. I home birthed my twins and they're here. That was my first feeling. Yeah. And he was actually he cried like the first thing he did a little, and he was a lot smaller than his brother, but he was very healthy, and nothing weird about him or anything. So it
Yeah.
was a very, yeah,
And
it's fine.
birthing twins in water or breech in water, um, or any baby really in water, um, tend to go so much better than like so in the hospitals and birth centers that, provide quote unquote twin births or breech births, they want a woman up in stirrups. They want her
Yeah.
definitely not in water, uh, on the bed, looking, monitoring,
Mm,
wanting to be like, well, wanting to manage the
mm,
birth really. But this really goes to show, how if you just leave a woman well
yeah.
alone, most of the times babies are wise, women's bodies are wise, and they
Yeah,
find their way to be birthed. Yeah.
exactly. But I forgot to say that he wasn't breech when he came out, so he had flipped
Yeah,
at some
yeah, yeah.
point, and I didn't remember if it was. Or actually, I don't know. I mean, I think he did it in the night, I told you about, but it could have done it in the few minutes where his brother came out as well. We don't know. But he came out with his head first. And that was also so, amazing to see, because everyone was telling me like breech is, breech is dangerous. You can't birth in like breech position, and if they were both in breech, you would have to C-section, and
Mm.
and of course, I mean, it's different from head down. It's another type of normal.
Yeah.
But in this case, I I never doubted my twins, my babies, to like they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
He knew that like I'm gonna give birth in the best position,
Yeah.
and obviously he wanted to flip, so he did.
Mm.
And if he didn't want to, he wouldn't, and I would give him birth in breech. So, but it was like it felt so good to know that they knew what they were doing, and I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. They're
And
so clever.
yeah, because that's kind of one of the biggest realizations I've made with home birthing. It is that the baby is, they know how to be birthed, you know they know what is the best thing. They are giving me, and I was speaking to them during the birth. It's some, I think it was just before transition with the first one. I was like, babies, please come out now. I'm just missing you so much. I just long to see you. I love you so much. May just, I want you to come out. Everything is good. You're so welcome. I was just like, talking to them. And I really believe that we are like in symbiosis. We're doing this together. I'm not just birthing out my baby. They are birthing themselves,
Yeah.
and I am helping them. So that's kind of what I want. And that just was felt so good that I had that realization, because at a hospital they don't talk like that. It's
Mm.
like the opposite. Like babies don't know how to be born. Babies can't be born. You have to have all these medical interventions for them to be born,
Mm.
but you don't. So yeah, so he came out and it was 11 minutes apart. So it was kind of fast.
Yeah, that is
And
fast, but good and normal.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, so it was just when he was out, everyone was like so happy, and the room was just filled with so much joy. And my
Mm.
mother, she was there, and she was so surprised that it came so fast, the other one, because it basically just slipped out of me. And she was like, oh my god, look at him, and the baby, my older kids were like, oh, he's here. And yeah, and then I started to feel like I wanted to birth the placenta. Well, the placentas, actually, there have been two placentas in the pregnancy. We saw two placentas on the ultrasounds, but we didn't know if there were still two or if they are like melted together, because they could do that if they're twins. But I just felt like, yeah, I want the placenta out. But I was kind of tired in I think my uterus, everything was kind of tired, because I felt like I wanted to push, but I couldn't. I pushed, but it was just not giving me the big push I needed for the placenta to come out.
Were you in the pool at this time
Yeah,
still?
I was still in the pool, and I think I had the babies on me like for a moment, but then I just felt like I wanted to move, and because I wanted the placenta to come out, so I gave the babies to my husband, and he went like skin to skin with them. But this was after a while. I think it was maybe an hour or half an hour, maybe no, half an hour after they were born. So I started like breastfeeding them first, and then I wanted to like try to move around. um yeah, so after a while, it didn't come out, and it wasn't like any danger or anything about that. It was just that I didn't feel I wanted like to be done. I just wanted it to come out, because I felt like I wanted to get up and be with my babies. And I think it was kind of, I just kind of listened to my body. Like my body was telling me like, yeah, let's just do this now. So I had my midwife, the one that doing acupuncture. She was putting like needles and then I don't know, remember which part of my body, but she was putting it somewhere where it was supposed to. Um,
Release the placentas.
yeah, exactly. And also I got like nose, like spraying my nose. I think that was like oxytocin, but synthetic. And so after a while it came and it was very big. It came out in the water, and it was probably two placenta that had like infused to one. So
Wow.
it was a big one. Yeah. And there was the it was very funny because my daughter, she was very excited about the placenta. She'd been talking about that all the time before birth. So when it came, she was like, "Oh yeah," that was like her high, like her yeah, the best thing about the birth was her seeing the placenta. And so when that got out, I went up and went to the bed or the sofa here and just kind of lay down and relaxed with the babies. And yeah, we would just chill in, and me and my husband went there, and everyone was leaving the room, so we were alone, and just kind of getting to know them, you know.
Just being in your lovely baby
Yeah,
bubble.
yeah, just and no thoughts of like, oh, we have to go somewhere or we have to do this and this and someone have to come check on me. And we could just be in our take it in our own pace and just relax and have a cozy time.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about home birth. Is
Yeah,
everything is just so calm and so
yeah,
familiar and so lovely. And
mm,
you just go if, want to go straight to bed and
yeah,
snuggle up. And the midwives, they can take their time doing things. There's no
yeah,
rush.
no.
It's in hospital, usually midwives stay around 4 hours. How long did your midwife stay around after?
Yeah, I think about 4 hours because they were born like one, and yeah, so I think 4 or 5 hours they stayed.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
they came down like 1.5 or 2 hours later to look at the boys and yeah, weigh them and measure them. And they were looking at the placenta, like how are looking at the mm, what do you say, well, the vessels or the
They look
things.
at the vessels, they look at
Yeah,
amniotic sac and the
yeah,
chorion, and they look at the placenta and seeing that it's all intact, that
yeah,
nothing's left inside of you, because that can
yes,
cause bleeding.
no. And I had like a minimal bleeding, actually. It wasn't all that much. And that was also one of the things that they had told me, like, oh, you can have a massive bleeding with twins. I didn't.
Yeah. I think also like, you know, all of this fear around twins or breech or whatever, I think it's because there is worse outcomes in the hospital. So they see
Yeah,
more complications. They create them
yeah,
through their medications,
uh,
interventions, poking and prodding, making, a woman not follow her instincts. Like you said, like when you were in that pool before you birthed your first, like you were doing all kinds of positions because your body told you to do that. Like you followed that natural
yeah,
instinct, which women are prohibited to do in the hospital. Most twin mamas, they have epidurals on board, they're up
yeah,
in stirrups, and a doctor is, manually delivering like
mm,
that those babies. It's such a different scenario. I
yeah,
think definitely that poses higher risk for
yeah,
bleeding, for all these different complications, because you've
of course.
meddled with nature. If you
Yeah,
meddle with the physiology, you increase the risk. It is
yeah.
so obvious to me.
It
It's
is
so
so obvious.
little, and it's just so insane that they can't see what
Yeah,
they're creating. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, because like also what they talked a lot about was that the babies could be like transverse
yeah,
in the womb.
yeah,
And of course that could happen, but at the same time, I if that would have happened, I trusted my body that I knew what to do. Like I could move around and I could do this, and I could be on my floor and everything. But in the hospital, they wouldn't even allow me to be upright. I had to be in the hospital bed
yeah,
to give
exactly.
birth there. So of course, I mean, it went very smoothly. And I
Yeah,
think it was because I had the capacity to trust my body and to have like a connection with my body.
exactly.
And
And
the
move with
connection is
your
like,
body.
yeah, the connection is like cut off when you have the moment I had the epidural, it was cut off.
Yeah.
The moment I went into the hospital, it was just not there anymore. But here I had this natural instinct that
Yeah.
got to me.
Yeah, it's so cool. And
Yeah,
it's so wise. It's so wise.
yeah,
Your body's so wise.
it is. And yeah, I really wish more women to have this experience, of course, but also the just the possibility to choose,
Yeah.
how I want to birth my baby. And
Yeah.
I'm really happy. I'm really proud of myself that I went through it. If even if I had like people saying like, no, oh my God, you can't do that.
Yeah. You have such an amazing unicorn story in our modern time, and especially here in Sweden, it's
Yeah,
almost unheard of that
yeah,
someone births twins at home. I don't even know if it has. I mean, it probably has happened, but it's not something you hear of. It's just so
yeah.
nothing that happens.
No,
So thank you for sharing that story with us. It's so important that we actually spread this story here in
yeah,
Sweden, but also all around the world, that women feel more, um, yeah, more just, I don't know, capable of birthing
yeah,
their twins at home if they want to do that. And
exactly.
that, for example, when it comes to this transverse business,
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, there's a very, very, very small, small risk. Small, small. The
Hmm.
chances are huge that it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
And the risk of it happening is less if you follow your body. And
hmm.
also, your baby's alive, right? Your baby's moving in there. Your baby's
Yeah,
birthing itself. It knows that transverse is not a way to be born.
yeah,
They're
exactly.
not stupid. They are very
No,
wise too. And they
yeah,
they know, like, your baby boy knew that he wanted to be born with the head facing down, but maybe
yeah,
he didn't have room before, or
yeah,
maybe he didn't have the inclination before. Maybe he needed his brother to be born to fully do that flip, or maybe he did
yeah,
that, as you said, during the night. They're
yeah,
wise. And that's the thing too, breech babies, transverse babies, which are again like this minuscule little percent, right, of
mhm,
babies. If they are that way, they usually will turn. They
yeah,
usually turn by
yeah,
themselves.
yeah. And that's what I that's what I'm talking about. Like when I said like I trust my babies, but I trust them to know what they need or what they want. But if you go to the hospital and you have an induction, it's like, what are you telling them? Like, oh, you need to come out now. We want you to come out. Like,
Yes.
what? We want to. I mean, they know. They know how to do it. And also, you know, this transverse, they were like, oh, you have to be, if that happens at the hospital, we have to pull like pull on your on your belly, like, and just kind of getting them in the right position. And that would be extremely painful. And I didn't want who I mean, who wants that pain just before you give birth? Like
Yeah.
someone like,
Manually pushing on your
no, you don't want
belly.
that.
Yeah.
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 So yeah,
Yeah, God, it's very barbaric when you talk about hospital
yeah,
procedures and just how they do things and think that that's so normal. It's just
yeah,
quite barbaric.
it
If you
is.
have a first-time mama in front of you right now who's about to have her first baby and she really wants to have a natural and empowering birth experience, what advice and pearls of wisdoms would you give to her?
Um, I've already said a lot of things, but so I'm gonna repeat myself, is that trust your body, trust your instincts, and also educate yourself in the way you want to. I mean, you don't have to read like tons of books and go to like classes or anything if you don't want to. You can just be in yourself. But if you want to educate yourself, do that if that feels right for you. Because for me, it felt very right to listen to podcasts, to read about other birthing at home, um, to go to like social media and look at accounts that were like showing home births in a positive way. So that was what I was doing, like looking at other mamas doing this thing, just to kind of give me the the possibility to find my own strength and my own wisdom, because it's there for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone can birth at home, but that's really what I think. But then of course you have like different pregnancies, you have um, yeah, everyone has their own things, but I believe that the female body is equipped to birth their
Yeah.
babies. That's just what I think. So um yeah, trust your instincts, and also get like the fears. If you have any fear, don't be afraid of the fears, just kind of acknowledge them and listen to them, and kind of just be with them, sit with them. That's what I did. I talked to my husband about it. I just kind of, okay, so this is my fear. If this happens, what do I do then? Okay, so just kind of like not just pushing them away, like, oh no, it's okay, I'm not afraid of that,
Mm.
because it is kind of natural to be afraid or to be like a little worried, because our system is like what it is. When you're being told everything, all the risks in the hospital, it's hard to be just not thinking about the fears. But so just kind of, yeah, listening to your instincts. If you have any fears, just let them be there, but mainly just kind of listen to your body and trust your body and
Beautiful.
yourself.
Thanks, Fanny, for sharing your
Thank
birth
you.
story.
Thank you so much. It was very nice talking to you. And thank you so much for your podcast. It helped me a lot when I was pregnant. And also afterwards, I keep continuing listening to birth podcast, because it's just, even though I don't plan to give birth again, it's just so nice to hear all these empowering
Mm.
stories.
Well,
Really. Thank you.
women who've had these empowering natural birth stories tend to get more and more interested in birth and eventually
Yeah,
maybe starts advocating and
exactly.
maybe
Who knows?
starts working with it. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I've found. A
Yeah.
lot of the ones in the Sacred Birth Vigor Mentorship has been
Yeah.
on this podcast and has had really empowering births themselves and then just
Yeah.
become absolutely passionate about spreading the word and wanting
Yeah.
to be at births and assist women to have these
Yeah.
experiences. And
That would be a dream to do that once. We're like the twins are 5 months now, so it's kind of a lot going on at home.
a
But
lot with twins.
yeah,
Yeah.
but in the future maybe, because I think it's so beautiful, and I just love the community of mamas birthing at home or anywhere, like just the natural birth
Yeah.
in itself is just the community with that. It's just so beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much, Fanny.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you love this podcast, then please consider sharing it, leave a review, or make a contribution on our Patreon page. And if you want to connect on social media, then find the podcast on Instagram as The Natural Birth Podcast. Thank you for listening.